Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another study guide overview with me, Mr. Palomera. This is part 2 for page 2 of the study guide. Hope you all have had a good time so far in your class, as well as in the whole day in general. Today we're going to go over page 2, questions number 15 through 26. So it's about 11 questions or so. Again, I'm going to try to go as quickly as I can because I am on a time limit. So if at any point you lose something or get a little bit distracted or whatever the case may be, please make sure that you let your government teacher know if you need any help or assistance, okay? Whether that be at Ms. Espinoza, Mr. Moreno, or myself, Mr. Palomera. We're here to help you, okay? So, question number 15, let's go ahead and get started. Asks you, what are two possible outcomes of a presidential veto? Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit more. There we go. So, number 15, what are two possible outcomes of a presidential veto? So, here we have our answer. The bill dies, or it is sent back to Congress where they can vote to override with a 2/3 majority. So, there's two essential outcomes. It either goes away or it gets back sent to Congress, and it has a chance to come back and override the presidential veto. Number 16, can presidents veto constitutional amendments? No, they cannot. Constitutional amendments are outside of the president's power. Number 17, whose power was limited by the War Powers Act? The president's power. We know that the War Powers Act was a limit on the executive branch. This basically made it so that the president is not able to declare war whenever they want, or at least, well, I guess they don't really declare war, but it limits the amount of force that the president can use. They must notify Congress within 48 hours of doing something. So that's the president's power for number 17. Number 18, what do political action committees do, otherwise known as PACs? So these political action committees collect campaign contributions or donations that are either for a candidate or against a candidate, a ballot initiative, or some sort of law. So whenever you see, YouTube ads that are either supporting or against a certain candidate or law, those are generally paid for through PACs, political action committees, that collect the money and then they create those. That's why it says at the bottom, supported by, funded by, blah, 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 Number 19, what is the cabinet and is it in the Constitution? So the cabinet is known as advisors to the president, and in the Constitution it does mention the presidential advisories, but it does not explicitly mention the cabinet. So therefore the answer is yes, but also no, not the cabinet, just chief advisors. The cabinet is also the heads of the executive departments. So Secretary of State, Secretary of Education. Number 20, how could we get rid of the Electoral College? Constitutional amendment. Constitutional amendment would allow for the Electoral College to be dismantled. Number 21, what happens to laws that are declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? Simply put, they do not go into effect. They become unconstitutional and therefore unavailable, unqualified to become a law. Number 22, what happened in the Supreme Court case of Gibbons v. Ogden? Did the federal government gain or lose power? The court ruled that the federal government had the right to regulate interstate commerce. The federal government gained power. So Gibbons v. Ogden, I'm trying to watch the game. Gibbons v. Ogden is a very famous case that came out in the late 1800s or so, mid 1800s maybe, but basically had to do with this ship and travel through, I believe it's the Ohio River, the Erie something, I don't know, one of those areas up north by Ohio and stuff. So, New York, I apologize. Anyways, basically the states were saying that they could, regulate it themselves, they could tax, they could do all that sort of thing. The federal government said, no, you can't do that, only we can do that. And so as a result, here we see, get out, New York gave me the exclusive right to operate steamships in New York waters. Wrong. New York gave the United States the exclusive right to regulate interstate commerce. So, it's basically an to who has rights over trade over the water, and that is the United States, the federal government, to gain power. Excuse me for jeopardizing your knowledge on that court case. It's one of those old ones. Number 23, name the two federal courts under the Supreme Court, appellate and district. Appellate courts are also known as appeal courts. So whenever you have a case you're trying to appeal or fight back, those are sent to appellate courts. District courts are your larger district. Each area has a certain district. Phoenix has a district court in San Francisco. So any case that goes to that level goes to San Francisco. Number 24, Arizona voters can approve an amendment to the Arizona Constitution by using a ballot initiative. So a ballot initiative is essentially when the people decide they want to have a law. So that is a very, very unique and progressive part about the ballot initiative, and especially in Arizona. So here you can see the ballot initiative starts off with a petition. So petition must be signed by a certain number of registered voters, and then that brings it to a public vote. As you can see, there's only 24 states that allow ballot initiatives according to Ballotpedia. There's 50 states total, so not even the majority of the states do this. Arizona is one of them, and it's like a very old school kind of progressive idea, but it's really cool. It basically allows for the citizens to create laws. So some examples include the Red for Ed initiative, which is Prop 208. Prop 208 was petition, so the people signed a petition for it, and then it became a law. Some other ones that are like very famous in other states, maybe you see marijuana petitions. Marijuana petitions are examples of, in certain states, where they try to do a ballot initiative. And here in Arizona, it wasn't like that. It was the Red for Ed is the most common one. So that is a ballot initiative. There's two other ones that you should know about called referendums as recall, but those are different. Number 25, what is gerrymandering? So as you remember, if you were in Miss Espinosa and Mr. Moreno's class, gerrymandering is a manipulation. It's a manipulative tactic. So here we see different examples of how to steal an election, basically how to gerrymander, This image right here shows you pretty much the same thing, a little bit more expanded, but gerrymandering is a way to divide people, voters, into different districts so as to, favor one group over the other. Ohio has a very notorious problem with gerrymandering, as you can see here. Their districts have changed, and they change, based off of who lives there and who votes there. There are other states that have them pretty crazy. The state here of, what is this, North Carolina? North Carolina has a crazy one somewhere in here. It's kind of all like skinny and long. It's kind of weird. It looks like a turd. But anyways, gerrymandering, that is number 25, manipulating the boundaries of a voting district to favor one party. And then lastly, number 26, how many legislative districts does Arizona have? That is 30. Remember when we did our Who Reps You assignment? You can see that most of the districts that exist in Arizona exist in the central part, right over in Phoenix. That's like a gajillion of them. Everywhere else in the state is much larger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that's so on and so forth. Here's another map that shows the legislative merging. So you can see here in Maricopa County, which is Phoenix, you can see how many districts there are alone. And then in Pima County, where there's Tucson, it is not as crowded, but it is similar. So that is your answer for number 26, 30 legislative districts. I know that was a little fast. Hopefully that, doesn't mean that you weren't able to, that you're able to, to get your answers. But here you go. Take a look in case you need to. If you have any further questions, please go ahead and take a moment to ask your government teacher. Again, whether that's myself, Ms. Espinosa, or Mr. Moreno. We're here and happy to help you. Good luck on your final, and I hope you'll hear from me soon in part 3. Oh, actually, you won't hear from me soon. That'll be, I think, Mr. Moreno or Ms. Espinosa, but thanks for listening, y'all. Thanks for watching.